We are back on the air. Moving over to the Western Conference now. My San Antonio Spurs, the defending NBA champions, still very much alive, even with the loss last night. Spurs looking at 6th place, tied for 6th with Dallas in the Western Conference. Just such a competitive race out there. You have Golden State leading the pack, and then you have a bunch of teams over 500. 10 teams over 500 in the Western Conference.
Yikes.
I mean, just the way that everyone is playing out there, you have Golden State, Memphis, Portland, Houston, the Clippers, the Spurs, the Mavericks, the Pelicans, the Thunder, and the Suns, all 34 and 32 or better. It is going to be some race out there.
Yeah.
I mean, all right. So let's think about it. Let's say you have the Warriors taking the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Best team all year long in the Western Conference.
Definitely.
Steph Curry lighting it up. Klay Thompson, great shooter out there. After that, it is going to be a mad race for the 2 seed. And really, when it comes right down to it, it wouldn't surprise me if there are a ton of so to speak, upsets, but lower seeds winning, because everyone in the West is so evenly matched.
Yeah. Anybody could be anybody in this Western Conference.
Now, you tend to go with the more experienced teams. So that's why, say for my Spurs, as long as they make the playoffs, it doesn't scare me what seed they get. Even if they get the 8 seed and have to play Golden State in the first round, that doesn't bother me, because the Spurs, while they might not put together, the best regular season and finish 66-16, they know what to do when the chips are down.
The Spurs are full of veterans. They can match up with anybody in the league. You really don't see them losing in the first round most years, except for a couple of years back when they lost to Memphis. But most of the time, they're in the second round, maybe even the third round. A lot of times, they're in the finals. The Spurs are just full of veterans who know what to do. Like you said, when the chips are down, the Spurs know exactly what to do.
Now, speaking of that Memphis team, the Grizzlies coming out that year, they were the 8 seed, upset the top seeded Spurs. Big upset there. Now Memphis currently is holding the 2 seed in the Western Conference. I did not see that coming at all. I thought this Grizzlies team would be good. They would make the playoffs. I would have expected, but the 2 seed, really? What have they been able to do? And just even though they're on a 2-game losing streak, still holding the 2 spot in the Western Conference. What has been the success of that team?
Well, they have most of the same core, the same people in Gasol and Mike Conley and Tony Allen, Zach Randolph, and they also added a shooter and a scorer in Jeff Green, who could make big shots for your squad, even hit game winners in sometimes. Their bench got deeper. So I like the Grizzlies right now.
Yeah, they're playing really well. Looking at, I like Tony Allen, a good solid defensive player. Marc Gasol has been I would say the best player on that team, just putting together quite a good season, and really, of course you have your Zach Randolph. He's gonna get his.
Yeah.
But just the way that team, and with the addition of Jeff Green, I think you hit the nail on the head there, that he really has sparked this team and given them an added dimension that we haven't seen Memphis have in the last few seasons.
Yeah, him and Kalathis are running fast breaks now. Grizzlies and fast break, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you're right. It is so ironic to see them, because, we're so used to the Lionel Hollins slow defensive Memphis teams that now, they're running and gunning, and hey, they could compete with the best of them.
Yeah, they got big guys who can match up with other big guys. Their guards can match up with any guards. They're another one of those teams you don't want to see in the playoffs.
Oh no, well, I don't want to see any of these Western Conference teams in the playoffs, but you know what that makes for? Great basketball come the postseason, and great for the fans to watch. Now, something that's been really great for the fans to watch has been the play of Russell Westbrook. The Oklahoma City Thunder playing without last year's MVP Kevin Durant. He's been plagued by injuries all season long. They started out horribly because he missed the first few months. Picked it up really when he got back. Now he was down with another injury, and Westbrook is just finding triple doubles left and right like they're growing on trees. Is Russell Westbrook the MVP this season?
I'd say no for two reasons in particular. One, their team is not that high seeded, and two, when he scores big time, the team doesn't usually win. Like, you see these other guys, James Harden, I forgot his record, but he only has 2 losses when his team only has 2 losses when he scores 35 or more. Steph Curry, his team only has 1 loss when he scores 35 or more. These other big time MVP candidates have more wins than losses when they score 35 or more. Westbrook is 2-7 last time I checked. His team is 2-7 when he scores 35 or more points in a game.
Those are some great stats, and that's been one of the biggest criticisms of Westbrook throughout his career, that he shoots too much, and in the point guard role has to look for passing and shooting. And that's why, Chris Paul really has a good combination of both passing and shooting. And, Steph Curry doing it's a sensational job at that this year. Steph Curry, he your MVP?
Right now, I'd say, I put a slight advantage over James Harden.
I think that Harden might have a little bit better numbers, but I think that when you look at just what the Warriors have done with first-year head coach Steve Kerr, so they haven't been in this system for several years like James Harden has, or a few years, and James Harden doesn't have a Dwight Howard down low to help him and get rebounds and be a force in the paint. So I think that you do have to look at Steph Curry and just the job that he has done leading this Golden State Warriors team. 51-12, 28-2 at home. Just a sensational season. 30-7 in the Western Conference. 30-7 in a Western Conference in which 2/3 of the teams are above 500.
Yeah, that speaks volumes right there.
The best player on the best team, you have to say that Steph Curry is just doing such a phenomenal job there that there's really no way that you can really I'd say that you can really give the MVP at this point to anyone else. Now, someone else who's had a monster season has been Anthony Davis, leading the New Orleans Pelicans to, if the season were to end today, they would be the 8th seed. To see New Orleans in the playoffs is something that I did not think would happen for a few years.
Yeah, I would say, like, if you asked me earlier this season, before the season started, I would say maybe next year. Maybe next year they'd have a 6th seed. But I wouldn't have thought that they could be in the playoffs, in this playoff hunt right now.
Yeah, I was talking to Rob Bancardo before the season started, and he was saying to me, watch out, Anthony Davis is going to light it up this year. And I knew Davis was a great player, and I'm a big fan of him. But I was thinking, okay, I could see him averaging maybe, 18 and 10, and I thought he'd have a good season, but just the job that he's done with the Pelicans, and really, I'd say they are my big surprise team out west to be in the playoffs, because you expected the San Antonios, the Clippers, the Rockets, the Warriors, the Mavericks, the Grizzlies, all to be there. The Trailblazers had off of their great season last year, but really the Pelicans have joined the party and joined it emphatically.
Yeah, like what you said, Anthony Davis is putting up big numbers. Tyreek Evans stepped up there when Anthony Davis was out for a couple of games with a couple of triple-doubles and a couple of 12-assist games. I think Tyreek Evans was the X factor for them, because we knew Ant Davis is a star. We knew Ant Davis was going to have big numbers. At least I knew that Ant Davis was going to put up big blocks, big points, and these steal numbers you see him get. But Tyreek Evans is what kept them afloat when Ant Davis was out.
And when you look at both Anthony Davis and Tyreek Evans, what do they have in common? John Calipari in college. And then you look at Calipari's current team, and you could see 5-6 guys who maybe 2 or 3 years from now could be Ant Davis and Tyreek Evans in the NBA and just doing their thing there. So I think that, the way that Calipari prepares them for the NBA is sensational. And, look at that. They're leading a team that not many people expected to really amount to anything this year, especially in the competitive Western Conference. And look, right now they're right in the middle of the playoff mix, and with the way that the teams are so bunched up, they're 4.5 back of Dallas for the 7 spot. So gonna be tough to catch them, but still, just the way that they have catapulted themselves into the discussion to be in the playoffs is something really great for the Pelican franchise.
I mean, Dallas could have a bad week, and the Pelicans could stay on this hot streak, and they could just take that spot. That's how it is in the Western Conference. One bad week, and then bye playoffs.
Yeah, looking at it right now, the Pelicans have won 8 of their last 10, and Dallas is simply 5-5 in there. That means that the Pelicans have picked up 3 games in their last 10. Right now, they're only 4.5 back. They have another +3 10-game stretch. Boom! It's a game and a half, and then they're right there with a month to go in the season. So you look at what the Pelicans can do, and again, playing against so many tough Western Conference teams, Dallas slipping up, it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
So now, right now, you have the we've been talking a lot about the Pelicans. Right now, they're holding down the 8th spot, half game ahead of Oklahoma City, and 2.5 ahead of Phoenix. Right now, which one of those 3 teams do you see getting into the playoffs as the 8th spot?
I don't see the Suns getting there at all. The Suns are not. Ever since they traded away Dragic and Plumlee, I don't see their squad as deep enough to get into the playoffs. OKC has a better squad, but they haven't been playing as well as the Pelicans have recently. Kevin Durant's going to come back either this week or the next. I mean, within the next 2 weeks. We'll have to see how Kevin Durant comes back, if he comes back to the Kevin Durant we know. So I want to say OKC.
I think I have to go with you there. I think that the talent of Durant and Westbrook, that combination, if you get them playing even, 50, 60% of what they can do,
It's a lethal.
It's
Duo.
such a lethal duo that I don't think that, and they've been there before.
Yeah.
They've been to the playoffs.
They've been in the
Been to the
finals.
finals.
Yeah.
They've been in the Western Conference Finals a few other times. They know what it takes to get there. This New Orleans team is young. They're inexperienced. I don't know if they've had many, if any, players who have been to the playoffs and tasted success there. So I think that, down the stretch, you have to look at OKC as the favorite of those three teams to get in. The Suns, you're right. I don't like the direction that they're headed. I
Yeah.
think they're going to regress. And the team I want to see most is the Pelicans, without a doubt. The fresh, the young,
Yeah.
the Anthony Davis, the Tyreek Evans factor.
I want to see how Eric Gordon does.
Yeah, I mean, that team is so fun to watch
Yeah.
that they'd be a great show if they can get into the playoffs. Unfortunately, they have to compete with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. Durant, one of the 5 best players in the world. Westbrook, who's playing lights out the last month. So when you're going up against that combination, it's going to be tough to get in, and I just don't think that they're there yet.
It all depends on how Kevin Durant adjusts to coming back from the injury, and how Westbrook adjusts to Kevin Durant. If they could adjust well, they're definitely taking that 8th spot.
And you know what? With the Western Conference, they could even move up.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me. They're not so far behind 7 and 6 that, they get hot. This team could even jump up to one of those spots.
One hot streak can get you up to 6.
So it's going to be a great final stretch, a great, about a month left in the regular season, and then playoff basketball, it's like nothing else. I mean, it's so fun to watch. And speaking of some fun playoffs coming up, college basketball, March Madness coming up. Jiggity, how big are you of a college basketball fan?
I'm a little bit adept. I know a little bit of college basketball. I'm not as like adept as someone like you are.
Yeah,
would
well,
be.
you know what? We'll maybe try to get into it a little bit with the Selection Sunday coming up in just 2 days. Stick around for that.
WICR